the NBA is back and up and rolling, and Davis and Dentarius will talk all about it. And plus, that and many much more going on in the world of basketball. And you're welcome to join us here on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for that is all is sports. And join us as you shall tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to talk about, lots to get into. We'll continue our division preview series with the Southeast Division. So that entails Atlanta, Orlando, Charlotte, Washington, Miami. We're going to give our predictions there. Kind of spice in some, what we observed so far from these teams. And let's go from there. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Very, 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 very happy with my Bucks actually clinching a playoff spot yesterday. So I'm in a really good mood, man. My Magic are looking pretty decent as well.
Yeah, man. Your team's looking good. Bucks looking good. Since they first trip to the playoffs since 2007, man. So,
I was 17 years old.
So, man, dang, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was like, God, dog, like a decade plus. And hopefully my Titans, they clinch the division, playing the snow in Green Bay tonight. So, we'll see how that plays out for Tennessee. Just hopefully, the secondary can cover this a little bit. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we're up here on December 27th. I hope everybody had a good holiday. Before we get started, prayers to the people up in Nashville. There's a big explosion that happened. Luckily, 3 people were just injured. But a lot of damage up there. So prayers up to Nashville. I know my service was out for a couple days, and I was hoping it would come up before the show, so thank goodness for that. Also, condolences to Casey Jones and family. The legendary coach for the Celtics of the 80s passed away on Christmas Day. Jones also was a player in college with San Francisco with future teammate Bill Russell with the Celtics. And the guy, won a whole bunch of rings in his time, in his playing days and coaching career. So, condolences to their family. But D-Lock, the season up and rolling. Some teams look good, others, when we talked in some of our preview series, haven't looked so hot. I know it's early, and I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but who has looked good to you so far?
Well, one team that is making a big impression on me is the Brooklyn Nets. I think everybody knew that they were going to be pretty good, but we didn't expect them to look this good. And obviously, they played against Golden State earlier, so that kind of was their first game to get them started, but Kevin Durant and Kyrie look very good, but they're not even the biggest piece, or the most important piece on this team. I think that one important piece that people are probably overlooking is Karis LeVert coming off the bench. If he can be explosive coming off the bench and keep that same energy for them, you're looking at a pretty solid season for them. They're pretty deep. Taurean Prince is looking pretty decent as well, but the fact that they have Joe Harris coming off the bench as well, then you still got Jared Allen. So for me, they look very impressive to me so far.
I tweeted this for the Fast Break account. And if you're not following us on there, please do. at fast break IESR. I'll tweet from there. Is like I love the depth of this team, and I know James Harden has been trying to get his way out there. But if you're Brooklyn, especially like and your coach Steve Nash, you don't want to give up that depth just for one guy.
No, you don't.
I'm sorry. The way they look against Golden State, the way they look against Boston, you can't. I'm looking at that as a coach. I said, damn, I can't give all that up unless I know I'm guaranteed if I get this guy in, I win the championship.
Yeah. For me, I just think that Karis LeVert and that second unit look way too good to just ship a package of them to Houston. You have your two main, guys in Kyrie and Kevin Durant. So, keep that second unit. And like I said, they come off the bench with that energy like they came with. You're looking at a pretty decent, a really good team all around. The fact that you have Jared Allen coming off the bench is just mind-boggling to me. He can make, a huge difference with the units. And then let's not forget they got Spencer Dinwiddie. So these guys can heat up at any time. So you have to realize, are you willing to give all that up for another scorer that's going to be in your first unit, who can he's going to have a high usage. So he's going to take away from your other two star players. So I know for years, ever since Boston got the big three with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett, the big three was the famous thing. But maybe this team can go pretty far without that.
Yeah, that second unit, very deadly. I don't want to say deadly, but very balanced. And that would go a long way, towards this season. And, for Brooklyn, Kyrie's been playing very well. I think the one main thing, I think you probably agree with this, can he stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
That's the major thing. We know we can do what you can do, but can you stay healthy? That's the major thing, in my eyes.
Yeah.
And if he stays healthy, you're looking at like a three-way dance. Who's gonna come out to represent the East between them, Milwaukee, and Miami.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I wouldn't trade that package, because worst case, if he do have to miss some games from time to time, you still got a hell of a rotation with the guy that you got on the bench, right? So, like I said, Karis LeVert bringing the energy off the bench. When Kyrie and Durant goes off the court, and we can definitely see that that's going to make a huge impact. They're actually playing. I think they're actually playing right now too. They're playing Charlotte tonight. It's one of the teams we'll cover. I know I've seen that. Not mistaken, but I think Kevin Durant, he got out smoking. So the game is pretty close. It's a 2-point game at halftime. But, with this roster that they have, if they can get the consistent play and, like you said, the healthy Kyrie, we can definitely see them, being in the Eastern Conference Finals, because that's a dangerous combination they have. And they probably have one of the deepest benches out of all teams, not just on the East, but in the NBA period.
Yeah. And, I know, past few years, getting these the three-headed monsters and stuff like that, is great and all, but in the flip side, you need that depth. along with your roster. But you got to spend the right money to make it right. And, what we've seen from the offseason, Brooklyn, the Lakers, Milwaukee to a degree, I think some of the moves they made was kind of like, even though they look pretty good, but, it's like, I think, you got your two superstars, put a good base around them, and just, and see how the season plays out.
Definitely. I mean, right now, that's what you got your roster, so just play out and see what it looks like. But again, I believe that you already have your two stars there, so why just be like, okay, we're going to give you basically another full lineup of players for one more player. We've seen the same roster last year do a lot of stuff without Kyrie and Kevin Durant in the bubble. I mean, we talked a lot about Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, during the show in September around that time. So there's no reason to get rid of that group they got. And obviously, if you want James Harden, you're gonna have to send them a nice deal. They're not gonna take just a couple draft picks and be fine with it.
I definitely agree. And, they up by 2 points at halftime against Charlotte. Charlotte, still a young team. They look pretty decent, in the early season. But we'll talk about them more in a second. So, up by 2, looking to go 3-0 against a young Charlotte team. So we see how that plays out for Brooklyn. Another team I want to ask you about, D-Lock, Houston. A lot of guys had to postpone the OKC Houston game for a couple days ago. A lot of guys in quarantine right now. James Harden just came off of quarantine the other day, and from the article from the Athletic and ESPN, they talk about him going out and partying and stuff like that, but they don't say too much to him because, he can come back and, drop 50 points. And he didn't drop 50 points, but he dropped 44 on his first game back against Portland. 44 points, 17 assists, 4 rebounds, 12 for 22 for the field.
Yeah.
And in your eyes, if you saw that performance from him after coming off, being quarantined, what's your assessment of Mr. Harden so far in the early beginnings of the season? Does it seem like he's still trying to get traded the way that some of his actions are, or you think Houston should keep him in the fold because they know what they got in him?
Well, this is the reason why this is part of the reason why he's acting the way that he is. I mean, he knows what he can do. I mean, dude literally, like you said, just came out of quarantine and just came out and gave you a triple-double and almost, went to double overtime or overtime against the Trailblazers, who are loaded with C.J. McCollum and Dame Lillard. So this proves, what he can do, what he is about. He goes out there and just says, hey, even though you're saying a lot of just different things about me going out and all these parties, it doesn't change that I'm one of the better players in the league. So now my issue with this is, I mean, if I'm Houston, I would love to keep him. But the problem is, how does he feel about staying? Like, we've seen him, act his way out of saying he doesn't want to be there. If he has that same energy, I believe we did see, I think I sent it to you a couple of days ago, that he got in a scuffle with one of the players on the team at practice. So not only is he not wanting to be there, but there's a little bit of negative energy that's kind of being pushed through that locker room. Now, when you come out and drop 44, 7, and 17, some of it's kind of looked over, just like him going out. For me, like I said, it's the biggest deal of, does he want to be there? I mean, we've known this for a while, that he's one of the better players in the league. You know, you go out there and drop 40 like it's nothing. That's not anything that's a surprise. But now, how does he how does he go about it? I mean, because clearly, bro, like, if you look at their roster, right, you still got P.J. Tucker, you just signed Christian Wood, you got Boogie, you got John Wall. So you got a nice roster with Eric Gordon. You got a very solid roster with him there. But the problem is, do you want to be there? That's the only issue. So if you start to see him, you know, feel better about staying, and he's talking a little different, then okay. But if he's still standing the same, I mean, right now, you know, he probably talked to, you know, close friends of his or business representatives, and they told him to treat it as if it was business, which is why he played. Because didn't he get fined a couple days ago?
Yeah, about, I think, $50K. I'm surprised it wasn't more, but
yeah. So when you lose $50,000, that's not play money. So you lose that. Now it's like, okay, well, if I don't play, this is something that's going to happen on a consistent basis. And for me, it clearly makes sense for him to, okay, well, you know what, you just lost 50 racks. You got to play. So now he's taking a little bit more of a business aspect about it. Now, like I said, go back and ask him, oh, how do you feel about, you know, coming back and playing or staying, which is probably going to be a question that he's going to be asked like every game, and his response is going to let you know. So for me, I still think he's one of the better players in the league. That won't change for me. But the fact is, does he want to stay?
yeah. And you know, before we continue on, shout out to the chat. Shout out to Daryl. Shout out to Terry in the chat. Thank y'all for joining in. Daryl brought up the point, you know, Daryl said like $50K is a half a game check for him. That's a lot of change to lose. It is, but you know, for what we observed in the offseason from Mr. Harden, though, you know, he's sitting and gifting money like he's cool to his close associates. So like, those game checks hurt, because if you want to spend money and stuff like that, you know, you would figure in hindsight, you know, I don't want to lose. Me personally, I hate to lose money on unnecessary stuff or silly stuff. Like, I don't want to lose game checks just because, you know, just because.
Mm-hmm. No matter how much money it is, doesn't matter how much money you have. You don't want to lose money. Correct.
You know, it kind of reminds me, you know, when Gilbert Arenas, you know, got in trouble all those years ago with what's the old boy's name that's in jail now? Javaris Crittenden.
Mm-hmm. With the gun, right?
Yep. And I remember in an interview he said he wasn't scared. He wasn't scared about the gun situation, but he was more scared about David Stern, because he's gonna, you know, spend them and stuff like that. And yeah. I can't remember at the time, you know, he had that big contract, and I think, you know, per game it was like over $1,000, $100,000 that he made per game with that contract. Do a couple game checks from him, you know, if I had a couple of his game checks at that time, and you know, he kind of laughed about it, joked about it too, talk about Arenas, I'd be debt free. I'd be more than debt free. And that's, you know, what I want to talk about here. Like, unnecessary stuff shouldn't happen. You know how serious the league was about these protocols, and you lost money on it. Yeah, it's cool. It's awesome that he can come back from quarantine and drop 44 points and have 17 assists. That's amazing.
Right.
But God, it's just kind of frustrating. Like if he puts, a more mental effort to try and be the best, how much more deadly can he be? I mean, looking for the box score from the other night, Christian Wood had an excellent game. 31 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, we talked about it, in the past, the money they spent on the Sunday big man Detroit did. You get that production for Christian on a decent contract, you get your money's worth. I can't wait till John Wall gets back and him setting up Christian Wood down low for easy baskets.
Yeah.
So you're Harden, man. Like you seen this production down low. You wait to see what you get from John Wall. He comes back. Boogie looked pretty good. So man, I mean, come back, come focus, and just kind of ride out the season. You never know how things shake out. In my humble eyes.
Yeah, we don't know how far they can go. They can, like I said, that roster is pretty solid. So, being there would be a bright idea. I think it would be. But it just seems like now he's so having his mind made up of leaving. So if he changed their mind, it's a little bit different to get him to, to be a bit more about, yeah, we're happy you're going to stay, or talk more about him. But if he's still giving you that negative energy, like at practice or these different interviews, talk about next question, and he's just avoided being there, it's not something that you really want to deal with all season long.
Yeah, if he has that negative energy all year, if Steven Silas feels that, damn, he's just disturbing the flow of the team, then you got to ship him out. Kenny Smith brought like a good point on tip-off. When tip-off coverage happened, it seems like each passing day you losing kind of value to get back for him.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure out something. If you're going to hang on to him, and trying to, figure out his outs in the summer. But if you're going to if he wants to go now, and you trying to ship him now, you better try to get the best value out of him now. So,
yeah,
we'll see how things shake out for the Rockets and whatnot. And, there's a story, we'll keep up with, ladies and gentlemen. But, they look pretty good. We'll see how things play out with the Rockets. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue our division preview series. Yes, we know the season has started, but that's kind of like a good thing. We kind of like splice in some, team coverage talk in the mix. Southeast Division. You had Miami, made a good run in the playoffs that landed them to the NBA Finals. A team that I think we didn't kind of expect to make it there, but, in the right matchups, could go a long way for you to make the finals, and that's what happened with Miami. Atlanta made some good clean moves to try and get them to the playoffs with a young superstar. Will that work? Charlotte drafted LaMelo Ball. Can he grow and be to the superstar that kind of awakens that Charlotte fan base? Wizards, can Westbrook and Bill get that team back into the playoffs? Also, the Orlando Magic. Mm-hmm. Is this the last ride for these group of starters? We'll see. But D-Lock, I'll let you go first. 5 through 1. Who you got, sir?
So, to be honest with you, this division just got a hell of a lot harder. You added Russ into this division, LaMelo Ball's in this division, Bogdanovich, here in Atlanta, with the Atlanta Hawks in this division. This division got pretty tough, but I'm going to start off with Charlotte being at 5. I still feel like I don't know what to expect from Gordon Hayward, and I mean health-wise. So picking him up was a big piece, but I think this team is going to be better down the road. You have Terry Rozier. Who knows how long he's actually going to be here? Devontae Graham and LaMelo, you got a couple pieces. I really like P.J. Washington, but I think that got to see what you're getting out of LaMelo. This team is very young, but they're in a pretty tough division, in my opinion. So I do have them sitting at 5 right now. 4, and this is where it gets very tricky. I have the Wizards. Getting Russell Westbrook was like a big piece. I think because now Russ is going to actually play compared to John Wall really not playing. So it's going to take a little bit of pressure off Bradley Beal. But now, how Ishmael played last year, we're not going to see too much of. I don't think we're going to see him be the Ish we seen last year. Troy Brown. I think Russ is going to take a lot of his usage is going to take away from some of those players. I think Ruhu Jamar is a hell of a player waiting in the waiting. I think he's going to be pretty good. The guy Denny Avdija, he's looking like he's going to come around at some point. But again, they're in a similar situation to Charlotte. They're a team that's up and coming, but we got to see the usage and how Russ and Bradley Beal connect together. Also, Thomas Brown is a solid piece as well. That's 4. So for 3, I have, and this is a tough one for me, I have the Orlando Magic. And the reason for this is because I feel like Nikola Vucevic is a very good player. But I don't see him as that star player that's going to take you over the top, that's going to lead you far. You went and got Cole Anthony. James Ennis is out for a while. You went and picked up Dwayne Bacon from your division rival in Charlotte. Chuma's going to look pretty good. Eric Gordon. You have some solid pieces, and Fultz is going to come into his own, but the inconsistency from Evan Fournier is one thing that bothers me, and also a little bit of inconsistency from Luch when they play against teams that are big down low. What I mean by that is they're very, very defensive with the centers that they have. They're going to be pretty good. I like Fultz. I think his confidence is growing, so I definitely like him to be a much better player, later on down the road. The biggest question for me is, what are they going to do with Mo Bamba? Me and you talked about it multiple times because this is my favorite basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Mo Bamba, you drafted him. What was he drafted? Top 10, I believe.
Yep.
Top 15. So you drafted him, but you had Vooch in the fold, and we have not seen Mo Bamba progress yet. Now he had COVID issues in the bubble, but he hasn't progressed to what we would think he could have been. So, for me, what are the Magic doing? They got to figure out what they're going to do with him. I think he could be a solid piece, but the fact is, you picked him somewhere where you are already kind of deep at, where you could have went different spots like small forward, where you could use Jonathan Isaac right now, who was hurt. So, Terrence Ross, so you could have had another guard, but Terrence Ross was there. So, but again, Mo Bamba, he still has a question mark by what he can do. After Aminu, Farouk Aminu has been hurt. So he was a big sign from Portland last year. I haven't seen too much from him. And Children is starting to get into the fold, who was hurt last year, we drafted last year. So for me, there's a few questions on this team for me to put them, in the top 2 spots. It's just, where I am right now because the inconsistency, and you have a few question marks that you have with Mo Bamba and Alfred Amino there. I think Cole Anthony is going to be pretty solid, though. The number 2 spot, and this was a team that jumped ahead of Orlando from last year for me, or made a huge jump, is Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
The fact that they picked up Bogdanovich, got, pretty decent, or I would say NBA champ, and Rondo, a vet. You went and got Chris Dunn, which is a pretty solid piece to me in rotation. You're already young with Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter, Clint Capella, like DeAndre Hunter. This team is in the making to be very, very good. It seems like they're putting pieces to keep Tre Young there. I believe they have to extend him in 2 years or something like that. So they're putting a team around him to keep him to stay. And with all these solid pieces that they have, there's no reason for him to not. They also picked up Gallinari. So if you look at this team, they got the big man down low with John Collins and Clint Capella, and they got a bunch of shooters in Gallinari and Bogdanovich, Chris Dunn and Cam Reddish, and a couple of slashers, and Kevin Huerter as well. So this team somewhat can be pretty good. I mean, we talked about earlier how Brooklyn had a decent roster. Well, I wouldn't mind putting this full roster, close to Brooklyn, like outside of starters. I mean, you have a lot of pieces. Bogdanovich, who I think signed the offer sheet with Atlanta, and Sacramento didn't re-sign him or rejected it. He's a phenomenal shooter. So, and now you got a lot of different ways that you can go with this roster. So I like what they can do. And I believe that John Collins might be a free agent next year, and we'll talk about that months from now. But I think he's an up-and-coming star as well. It just takes time for them to, put him in the fold with Clint Capella once he gets healthy. And, you got your shooters, all over the place. On top of that, the really good thing you got is a vet and Rondo to help Tre Young be a great star in the league. So I like this team. I like what they're capable of doing, what they will do. And obviously, number 1, got the Miami Heat. You're bringing back a lot of pieces. Only person you really lost was Jay Crowder. To be honest with you, even though you lost that defensive player, you did go get Avery Bradley, which is a big piece as well. I think that's going to help in the rotation. You still got Dragic there, Kendrick Nunn, Hero, Dunk Robinson, of course, Jimmy Butler. This team is going to be a problem. Now, with Myers Leonard starting or getting a lot more playing time now that Jay Crowder's going, I think that's going to be maybe a slight weakness for them. I think that's where they're going to struggle a little bit. Also got Mo Harkless there. But Precious is going to play a huge part. We might see a little bit more of Kelly Olynyk this year. We'll see about that. But, you got the vet experience there as well. You just came from the NBA Finals. You got the main group back. I think Pat Riley is one of the greater general managers or the owners of the NBA because of the things that he does with that roster. I mean, remember, we thought this team was down and out once LeBron left. It only took them a couple of years to get back to what they are now. So, for me, this is the number 1 team in a somewhat pretty tough division or much better division. They're going to make their moves, as the season goes now. I think that because they just were in the NBA Finals, we might see them peak a little bit later than everybody else. But when the time comes around, as far as playoff times, I think they'll be ready. This is one of the teams that we have to put in the same category with Milwaukee and Brooklyn to represent the East in the NBA Finals.
All right. And shout out to Marcus Lowe's Great. How you doing tonight, sir? Thank you for tuning in. Number 5 for me, in this division. And Terry is in the chat saying Karl Anthony Towns is out with a sprained wrist. So I ain't had Minnesota doing much this year anyway, D-Lock, but there's that. And then Dinwiddie is out with a strained knee. So we just talked about that depth with Brooklyn, and he's going to be out for a little bit. So, that's not going to help. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Landry Shamet will step up in his place. We'll see. For me, for this division, gotta go with Charlotte Hornets number 5. We talk about the Gordon Hayward contract. We talk about them finally seeing the light of getting rid of Nicholas Batum and that horrible deal. To turn around to give Gordon Hayward all that guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Hornets, they are up by 2 points on the Nets right now. Well said, Mr. Hayward, leading the team is scoring 19 points right now. LaMelo Ball and the samples, I've seen him in, look pretty decent. I think, hopefully in due time that his shooting efficiency kind of get tightened up. And, he be a more cerebral player. But, athletically, a big guard, can get up down the court, can see the court very well. I like how he looks. Rozier, it's kind of like, he'll give you 44 like he did one night. And then other days, he'll disappear. He's too hot and cold for me. From my eyes. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, for this group, as long as you see growth out of Bridges, Washington, and Graham and Ball, I think you be come out looking good. I think come during the summer, Rozier be last year on his deal, and maybe you can find some taker for that, and put Ball in that starting lineup, and just continue from there. But I don't see this team making a lot of noise, and like I mentioned, hopefully Ball will grow to be that superstar player that this team is desperately needed, because you need to awaken that fan base, and they've been kind of dormant for the past few years. So that's my number 5 team. Number 4, like you, this is pretty tough. This is pretty tough, but I got, like, the Pacific Division. I got 4 teams coming out in this division making the playoffs. Number 4 for me, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the other 3 teams, their depth and coaching a little bit better. Washington, looking at the standings, they're 0-2 right now. Russell Westbrook didn't even play tonight, so if you're a team trying to make the playoffs and stuff like that, and the way we see how this early season can put you in a hole very quickly, a la the Golden State Warriors, you got every game kind of counts.
Yeah.
And looking at this team, what you got in Westbrook and Bill. I do like the draft pick of the Denny Avaja kid. I do like that pickup for them. Bertans, I like to re-sign him, but not for the money they gave him. Because, yeah, he can shoot and can spread the court for you, but Rebounding and defense wise, he's a liability. And, you know, Thomas Bryant, he's pretty solid at times. Along with Mo Wagner. You know, Ish Smith, you know, he's still getting a check in the league. Robin Lopez gives you some toughness down low. But, you know, you ain't trying to play him 20 minutes or so every night.
Mm-hmm.
And Huchamar, I think, you know, you got to see continued growth from him. That's the only thing, you know, you can hope for. But, you know, if some of their bench pieces were a little bit stronger, I may have put this team higher, but I just like the other, you know, some of the other moves that some of the other teams made better than them. But I will say this. You know, swapping Westbrook for Wall was a pretty good deal to me. Only reason I say that, you know, Wall hasn't played in a couple years. I mean, yeah, he's playing now, but we don't know how he was when he's going to come back. And to get out that contract for a lesser deal, you know, sounds pretty good to me in paper. Time will tell how that shake out, but that's how I see that trade. But one more thing about Washington. I'll get to my 3. If this team falls below 500 and out of playoff reach, who's going to come calling for Bradley Beal? Yes, I know Bill doesn't want to get traded and stuff like that. But if you got a playoff reach come trade deadline, and some of these other teams, you know, I kind of leapfrog you, do they kind of entertain offers for Bradley Beal? Maybe, maybe not. But I think this is more and more teams to keep an eye on to see how their season plays out. And, you know, if they start trying to do a fire sale. But Washington is my number 4 team. Number 3. It's real tough. Real tough. But, like you, I got to put Orlando here. I think, you know, for Orlando, I think one of the benefits of them trying, you know, keeping that core intact, minus Jonathan Isaac, who's going to be out for the year, is like, you got the same consistent lineup. There's consistency there. There's, you know, trust there that you've been having the past few years. I know we talked about this off air. I hate giving up big money to Fultz and Isaac.
Yeah. I was thinking the same.
I was like, with Fultz, it's just like, if you can show me for a full year that you're good to go, then we'll talk. But they kind of gave him that money as like, you know, I guess we know what we got, or we got something good, and we're trying to get him on a bargain right now compared to later. But that's just like, my thing is like, I don't know. Hopefully the guy is right, but it's just like, you kind of put yourself in the corner. If he does work out, hey, great, awesome. We love to see it. But if he doesn't, you kind of put yourself in another, you know, dead weight contract, in which, you know, the past couple of years, you've been kind of hanging around that bottom of that, fighting for that last playoff spot. Isaac, there's potential there, but, you know, at times he has showed it, but it's just like, we wanted more. You know, reminds me like a Tim Thomas in a sense. I think he could be a better player than him, but Tim Thomas at times you kind of wanted more from him. At times, I was like, like you can shoot, you can dribble, you got nice size to you. Why can't you do more?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you brought up Vucevic. I was surprised like a contending team hasn't called to talk about him and as their third option. I'm surprised like a team like the Boston Celtics hasn't called about for him. Or, hell, he'd be perfect with the Brooklyn Nets. Guy down low can score and rebound. You give up, I hate to give up Jared Allen, but give up Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan for that, I'll do that in a heartbeat. And you're not getting too much of your depth either. But you still got Vooch in the fold who can give you stuff. Fournier, he's all right to me, but it's like
I don't like him too much. I don't like the inconsistency, man.
It's like, I agree with you consistently. Like Smush Parker years ago for the Lakers, man. It's like you play well certain times, but other times, you want to go to the TV screen and kind of smack him like, damn, dog, I know you play better than this. But Fournier is like, come on, man. I was like, you going to have 30 points against this team, but come out, have 8 here?
We do.
And Mark is saying, Kobe was on Smush ass. I mean, yeah, I know. That part didn't help matters either, but still, you overcome that. You tell Kobe kiss your ass and play your game. Maybe he won't be on your ass.
Do you, basically. Yeah.
But, hopefully, Aragorn, plays very well for you. Okeke for Auburn. I know you kind of like, quote unquote, redshirt him last year. So, with Isaac out, hopefully, you see what you get out of him. And hopefully a guy that can blossom to that stretch forward that, when Aragorn's contract, expires, you got to replace him right there. I did like to pick up Cole Anthony. I think this insurance, this case, folks don't work out for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're still paying money to Alfred Reno for some reason. And then Mo Bamba. But Buddy got to come out and play, man. I was like,
I told you when we talked about it before, and I told you, I was like, what are we doing with this guy? I mean, he's not a bad player, but we have yet to see him make an impact.
And he has some DMPs, and he's kind of falling. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but he's kind of falling. I hope he don't fall on the same path, but he kind of fall on the same path like Norris Noel.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Noel got caught up in that bad situation in Philly. Great job by Sam Hickey there. But then, you see him bouncing around like to the Knicks, Thunder. I forgot where he's at now. But, you see him bouncing around and stuff like that.
He's in New York. I mean, is he in New York?
Oh, shoot.
I think New Orleans Noel is there.
So, you talking about a guy that you drafted very high but you're not seeing them return that value. Makes you think, maybe you should have went with Colin Sexton, who went the pick right after him, a guard that you desperately needed. But you guys see what you got in this guy. So much so that you feel confident enough to trade Vucevic to get some nice value for him from a contending team. But I got Orlando at number 3. But I got them making the playoffs as well. Number 2, the Atlanta Hawks. When we talk about depth on here, ladies and gentlemen, building a nice solid team, you will have a nice starting lineup, but you want nice pieces right behind them. And, along with the Lakers, along with the Nets, and I think this team right here has done a very excellent job building their depth for the past couple seasons. Their starting lineup is pretty good. Kent Capella, he hasn't, played much this season. I want to say he didn't play tonight. Let me look. Or back on the 26th yesterday. So yeah, Capella, he's still out. You got John Collins in that center spot. He went 13-10 the other night. And you started, Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter in those spots. If he can come back healthy with this team, I think they can do some things. But from last season and to now, you seem like you're not getting no value for him in Clint Capella. I think, one of the things we kind of hope for Atlanta's success, if he can come in and be that dude. Defense, rebound, stuff like that. Be a cleaner. But we also talked about D-Lock, with Capella. We also forgot about John Collins in the fold. And I'm interested to see how those two guys coexist when they finally see the court together. If they can mesh well and stuff like that, I think that'll do wonders for them in the long run. And especially in the East. Maybe minus Miami, minus Milwaukee and Brooklyn. But if they can, with those two guys down low, if they can bully you and out-rebound you, out-hustle you with those offensive rebounds, and then you got those shooters that you brought in the offseason, and Gallinari, who was out with a left foot injury from yesterday's game, and Brogdon, along with Tre Young and Kevin Huerter, you cooking.
That's what I'm saying with them shooters.
You cooking. Yeah, I mean, yes, Balkman went 1 for 9 the other day, for 3-point line, which is not good. And Tre Young had 36 points, but he went from 1 for 7 for 3-point land, but they still won by double digits against the Grizzlies. But off the bench, you got Huerter come off the bench. He's going 4 for 5 with 21 points. And that's what this Atlanta team needs. If my star players are having a bad night, I hope my bench comes behind me and picks up the slack. Even in this dude named Nathan Knight from William Mary, he was 2 for 3 for 3-point land. He had 14 points and 3 rebounds, and he only played 9 minutes. So, if they get everybody healthy, can find, the right pieces, the right rotations, I think this Atlanta team could do some damage this season. And easily number one, Miami Heat. You know, the defending Eastern Conference champions. You know, one big thing I think was talked about in the offseason, you know, was Pat Riley going to make was Pat Riley going to make a move to kind of, you know, capitalize what happened going to the making the finals. Was he going to go after James Harden? Was he going to go after a Giannis? You know, potentially a Russell Westbrook maybe. But, you know, that didn't happen. Or, you know, for the time being, that hasn't happened yet. You locked up Bam for the next 5 years, which was the right move to do. And your best move to do in the offseason. You picked up some decent pieces. You know, Avery Bradley's in the fold. Mo Harkless. Also, who's, you know, 27 years old. But he's been playing in the league for like 10 years. And I think for them to get back to the NBA Finals, D-Lock, you gotta find your flow. You gotta get Kendrick Nunn back into the flow of things. I know in the bubble he got the COVID and he wasn't right, and Dragic got kind of hot and stuff like that, and they rolled that hot hand to the finals. But you know, your key to the success last season was moving Dragic to the bench, having this young rookie in the starting lineup, and you found great success. Now, hopefully, you know, you can do that again, you know, with this group. But, you know, from the starting lines, you know, we've been seeing, you know, they've been having Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson in that starting lineup running the point position. And Jimmy Butler also. Which you can get away with it in certain games, but you can't get away with it all the time. And you rather have, you know, those guys off the ball. In my humble opinion. And like looking the last game against the Pelicans, Kendrick Nunn didn't even play. And we're talking about a guy that was in the final three voting for Rookie of the Year. So they got to find a way to get this guy back in the rotation. I know signing Avery Bradley kind of hurts that. But, you know, they got to figure, you know, what they're going to do with this guy.
Yeah.
Am I?
He put a huge piece to me. But it's, you know, what are they going to do with him is the question. I think he's a hell of a defender, too. Clearly, we know that when he was with LA and Memphis and all the other teams he was with. So, but I know that I think he can help them. But, you know, we agree on that for the most part.
And then, you know, another thing, you know, you signed Dragic to a 2-year deal, but with a team option. So, and he's 35 years old. So, knowing that, you got to see what you got in this young guard. And, you know, with the quick turnaround from the all season up to now, and, you know, is Dragic fully healthy from that leg injury that he suffered in the finals? That's another question. Is he like very high risk? You know, I don't say high risk, but is he like moderate risk to injure again? We shall see. But they're not making the finals again if they trying to roll out that lineup of Hero, Robinson, and Butler, you know, handling the main ball duties in the beginning of the game. That's not going to flow well for me. And I don't think, you know, that's going to last, and that'll get you bounced at least in the second round, in my eyes.
Yeah, quick.
But I do got them making the playoffs, along with the Magic, along with the Wizards, and along with the Hawks. You know, to say if Miami makes the finals again, I really can't say. But if they get the right matchups like they did in this past offseason, then, you know, Pat Riley and especially Eric Spoelstra, they deserve a pat in the back.
Yeah, Pat Riley been doing a lot of dealing for a while, and I like how he finds a way to replace players that he lose. Lost D Wade and we ain't got Jimmy Butler. We thought for a while that he was going to go get Giannis. That's what I thought his next move was going to be. And I believe that if Milwaukee doesn't lock him up this year, that he could end up in Miami, or he would have ended up in Miami. So kudos to Pat Riley, big time.
So yeah, so we'll see how this division shakes up. Like I said, if Atlanta gets healthy, I think it could be a team that you really don't want to face, along with Miami, if they find the right lineup. And like I said, I think they're 14 deep in this division. The only way that I can see that number subtract if Washington has a bad year or things don't click right.
Yeah. I mean, you got a couple stars there, is what I'm saying. So, you know, you got to see what Billy Donovan is there. Not Billy Donovan. Is that? Am I getting him?
Yeah.
Mistaken?
I think.
I can't think of his name right now. Dang, I can't think of his name right now. The coach. He was
Scott Brooks, yes.
Yeah. So, got, you know, somebody that Russ knows very well. So, then again, we're talking about the East. So we know a team under 500 is going to make that. They're going to make that final, or they're going to make the playoffs. So we'll see how deep it is. But this division is nothing to play around with.
I definitely agree. So, you know, we'll see how things shake out. But, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our show tonight. Thank you for tuning in with us. D-Lock, I did want to ask you this. Duke women's basketball, headed by Kara Lawson, first year in the job. You know, she was an assistant with the Boston Celtics, and now she got this job. They decided to kind of, you know, stop playing for the rest of the season. And we talk about, you know, a Duke program, along with like basketball, along with my Shexy, that, you know, kind of in that slippery slope, like they want to play but don't want to play. What are your thoughts on, you know, them shutting down for the rest of the season?
Well, to me, I honestly think that, you know, them shutting down. This is going to be a trend that can possibly happen with teams moving forward. It's great that it happened because, like, you know, usually once one team or one group of people do something, there's people that follow. You know, we know that the ACC is one of the bigger conferences in all of basketball, both men and women's. So to lose that team is tough. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to be the only team. I think there's going to be other teams that could possibly follow. And on top of that, you know, before this, we thought COVID would kind of slow down, but in fact, I think it's actually increasing. So, as a matter of fact, you know, just for the sport of track and field, World Indoors has got postponed another 2 years. So it's a question to see how that's going to affect the rest of the sport. But also, like I said, you have a women's basketball team that's saying, well, they're not going to take a lot of risk. The biggest question is what other colleges follow, because that's what they, they're going to be worried about. And this is going to be a buzz that's going to happen throughout college, both men and women. So it's sad to hear that, but that's where we are right now with things. Us just as a country, we thought that, and as a world, we thought that this would be. We thought by how long well, we talked about this. You remember we talked about this about Rudy Gobert back in what was that? In March, February,
March.
Remember I think we did a show. I think it was the same night. Chris Paul was trying to go talk to Rudy Gobert or somebody, and they were just keeping him away. You remember Gobert rubbed everything off the table, and ever since then, we went through months of no sports, virtual basketball, virtual different sports, to coming back to the bubble, thinking that at some point going into 2021 it would be cleared up a little bit, but in fact hasn't gotten any better. So it's something that has to be thought about. So and with that being said, obviously everybody wash their hands and wear a mask at all times as much as you can. But I don't think this is the end of it. I don't think Duke women's team is going to be the only team that's going to cancel the season.
Yeah, and Terry, he's saying in the chat, D-Lock, that USC, they've been having COVID cases for a while. They haven't played since UC Irvine. They played Santa Clara on Tuesday. He said also, he mentioned Long Beach State men's hoops hasn't played since they played San Francisco back in early December. So it's tough out here. Very tough.
I mean, it's very tough, and when you see a trend, know something is going to happen. So if you see some teams not playing, and you slowly see one team say they're going to cancel the season, like, it puts a lot of stuff in question. So, but hopefully things can kind of clear up a little bit. But it's going to feel like a different season not having Duke basketball women's.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, and I know it had to be a hard decision because, Kara Lawson's in her first year there too as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, that's something brave to do in your first year in that situation. Yeah. Very hard to do. I was like, ooh, I read that. I was like, wow. In your first year, you try to make your first impressions, all that stuff. Show the school that, hey, they made the right decision. But I mean, to have the courage to do that in your first year, I give her kudos to that. And it seemed like the university, is behind them in that. Also, ladies and gentlemen, this has been awesome year for us, here on Fast Break. And, if you want to tie in the L&C podcast. Very great year. A lot of growth in this channel. I love doing the show with you, D-Lock. And, it's been a fantastic year. I think, one thing I think probably one of the best episodes and one of the saddest episodes when we did where we're still doing the LSC podcast, the Kobe Bryant death.
Yeah.
And, I hit up Larry earlier that day to do the show earlier because I was going to watch wrestling and stuff like that. Round 6 and stuff. So I was like thinking, okay, do the show earlier. I'd watch wrestling, and then as me and you found out, the Kobe Bryant stuff, the news started trickling in. And I don't know, it was fake for us that day to talk about that in real time. But, I was like, just think about it. It's like, to talk about that going live is one our better shows, but one is the saddest shows that us here on IE Sports Radio, we were the first to talk about Kobe Bryant and his passing.
Mm-hmm.
And also with the others in there, his daughter, her teammates, their family members. And, the episode, really hit home. And, to have somebody to talk, with during that show, that was a great honor to talk with you on that podcast. Because if I had talked about that by myself, I don't know if I would have held up on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very tough episode to do. I mean, especially with everything that happened, it just was something that was huge. And then for the year to go how it went, didn't help. But I know, like I said, to talk about the whole Kobe situation by myself or just to sit and think about it was a tough time. So, but it was one of the better episodes, and yeah, man, I definitely appreciate, definitely doing the podcast with you, co-hosting, because, my knowledge is increasing. Always talked about track for the most part and football and a little bit of basketball, but now I feel like they're all on the same level. Like now I can go into a barbershop and literally nobody can talk about track or football and we can talk basketball. And I would feel really, really comfortable, because my knowledge has just increased over time. We've talked about even betting on basketball, FanDuel and stuff like that. So my knowledge of it, knowledge of the draft, how, certain teams make these trades, these big moves, even how impressive what LeBron has done, getting his 4th ring, even though some things we just hear about on ESPN, when you actually study the sport and just pay attention and learn the different things about it, it's more exciting. I mean, this is something that I would never feel like I'm working when we do a podcast, when we do our podcast at 8, doing retweets on Twitter and all this stuff. I don't feel like I'm working when it comes to that because it's something that I really enjoy doing. So, yeah, man, I definitely appreciate it. We'll keep it going. I mean, for this just to be kind of the first year, we're only going to get better. I think we're going to expand more as well. Now, the season is a lot shorter, but
yep.
We still have, playoffs and different things, and we welcome in new players every draft. So, we're going to see the next great players coming into the league, and we'll definitely, talk about them, even on college. So, it goes the same thing as WNBA as well. Ever since doing the podcast, I've learned a lot more and paid more attention to the WNBA. So, as the quote says, my dad always told me knowledge is power. And the more knowledge you gain on different things, you can do that. You can have all that knowledge and have a passion for it. You'll never feel like you're working. So, yeah, man. I mean, we'll definitely keep, we'll keep bringing the feed to everybody. And again, for the listeners out there, if there's anything he wants to talk about, the next show, move forward, don't hesitate to hit us up on our Twitter page, because now that basketball is officially back, there's news happening like every day. Like, we haven't talked about it too much today, but I know you've seen the Clippers get blown out today by 50 by the Mavericks. Literally thought that was a high school game for a minute. So things are always happening. Kawhi Leonard got, was it yesterday he got hurt, or was it 2 days before that?
Let's see, they last played on Christmas, right? Yeah. That was
they
on
played
Christmas.
on Christmas. Yeah, okay. So the Clippers look useless without Kawhi today, only having 27 at halftime against the Mavericks. So, but like I said, if you guys have anything y'all want us to cover, specific things, teams, details, anything, just hit us up. We love doing this.
Yeah, on the Clippers thing real quick, all those bad teams the Clippers had in the past, but this group right here has the worst loss in franchise history. So I thought that was amazing. Stat right there is like, geez, from the days of damn Cherokee Parks and Michael Oven Candy, those teams never lost by 51 points. But then you got Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, Lou Williams, and you lose by 51 points to a good Mavericks team.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, you mentioned, I love the growth in the show. College basketball. Once we get these previews out the way, we'll get more, college basketball in the flow, because, Gonzaga, they kicking butt right now. Kentucky, they 1-6 after losing to Louisville. Cal sending players home. Say, hey, you better go figure it out. Because I would say high expectations for a Kentucky basketball team, but it's like you 1-6 and you come in the SEC play, which kind of looking right now with some of the teams seems kind of wide open. So, once we get these previews out the way, we're gonna get the last one next week. We'll start integrating more stuff like that. College basketball woven in and all that stuff. But I do want to shout out one of our new sponsors here on IE Sports Radio. 2020 has been a challenging time, ladies and gentlemen. Very challenging time. Mentally and financially. Well, Legacy Financial out in Riverside, California, they can help you out, wherever your family needs or for yourself to get right back on track. You can call them for an appointment at 951-732-0130 or 5110-928-2104. Call them, book your appointment, and hey, they get you right back on track. If you feel like you had to do some things that you didn't have to do, hey, let them help you out and get you on your feet set right for 2021 and beyond. But please do give them a call if you have issues like that. I know, like I said, this year's been rough, unexpected. Our government is, holding money hostage from us. But, even besides that, give them a call and they'll help you out. And I also got a Twitter page at Legacy_Uncut, Legacy Financial. So please give them a follow, even hit them in the DMs on that. But D-Lock, how can the people find you on social media, sir?
You guys can definitely find me at Black-813, Twitter and Instagram. Doing more posts about the Magic. It is playoff season, so you will see NFL playoff is coming around. So I will be doing a lot of tweeting and Instagram posts about the Bucks playing in the playoffs with the GOAT and other players. So, if you have any comments towards that as well, be sure to let me know. Let them know where they can find you at, man.
You can follow me at Spawn4288 on Twitter. That's Spawn4288. I'll probably hop on there here in a little bit and complain about the Titans losing to the Packers by 3 touchdowns. But, thank goodness that Steelers won. But anyways, yeah, follow me on Twitter at Spawn4288. Also, you can follow me on my other podcast, The Crooks Process, on Facebook and Instagram. Once I post the episode, those will go out to the feed, and you can follow the link there. I'll probably post an episode there soon to close out the year, so do be on the lookout for that. Also, please do follow us on Fast Break on ISER. That is Fast Break ISER. Talk, interact with us. We love conversing basketball, so please give us a follow on there and chat basketball with us on there.
Definitely.
Do check out the other shows on iesportsradio.com on the playbacks and everything like that. I was on our Chicago show with Mr. Adam Karanek, talking about the Chicago Bulls. So if you want to listen to me on there, check out the playback there on IE Sports Radio. Also, buy some merch, especially the t-shirts, the black and white. Looks very good on a lot of people. So please do buy that. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching us, listening to us, for this amazing year, 2021. We're going to kick butt and expand this show to new heights and, give y'all the best show possible. But enjoy the new year, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see y'all next Sunday. And we're out.